Two people can be walking down the street. One can see an abandoned house, and the other can see an opportunity. It's the worldview. Two people can be watching the news, and one can hear war and economy, gas, and the others see opportunity. Stock market crash, opportunity. It's worldview. Now available. Awakening I Am, Internal Awareness in an AI Age audiobook, and our Victory Builders platform, which integrated system for founders who execute, is open. Links in the description. We make our own destinies by the way that we think, the way that we process, we attract from the way that we see the world. In fact, the term is called worldview because two people can be walking down the street. One can see an abandoned house, and the other can see an opportunity. It's the worldview. Two people can be watching the news, and one can hear war and economy, gas, and the others see opportunity. Stock market crash, opportunity. It's a worldview. But the worldview comes in variations of shapes. One, our upbringing, DNA. That is ingrained in us. There's nothing that we can do about it. We can't choose the family that we're born into. Thank God that we don't live in a place where if your dad is a janitor, you are a janitor. Your mother is a homemaker, you can only ascribe to be a homemaker. Two, environment. I grew up, as you all know, in a place called Far Rockaway, Queens, New York, during the war against drugs era, and the birth of hip hop. And we vibed on rhythms and sounds that recorded what they saw around us. And most of that was death, doom, and destruction. And that was a part of my lens, the part of the worldview. I scroll through Facebook and I see a fight, I stop. But then you get older and you have two sets of people. One group of persons will say, my dad was gone, I grew up in that era, I fight, I did this, my mother with that, and I grew up with a black and white TV, and this is all I can ascribe to. Most people who live in certain communities rarely travel 2 miles north, east, south, and west out of those communities. They church in those communities, they shop in those communities, they do everything in those communities, and that becomes their entire worldview. And if you're in the water, you can't enjoy the beach. My name is NaRon Tillman. This is Walk in Victory, where we have conversations and we sit you at the feet of the masters. And today, we're going to have a conversation with our master, Don. I'm looking at that. I'm messing up the name. Donzel. I got it right? You on mute. You on mute. Dave. Oh, no. Now you're on mute.
Okay, what about now?
There you go.
All right,
There you
perfect. Donzel,
Thank you,
you
sir.
got it right.
Donzel. I was struggling with that.
Yeah, no worries, bro.
Thank you for joining us. And if I was to ask you a simple question, if you heard the phrase "make your destiny happen," what would that resonate with you?
But what it resonates with my book. So I literally wrote a book with that title. And the intent was to do a lot of what you're talking about, to inspire people who feel like life is happening to them, that they're a victim of circumstance, that even that the world is a difficult place, it's a tough place, especially right now, and that they're powerless to do anything about their own circumstance. And I wanted to write this book to let them know, no, you can make your destiny happen. And I want to lay out for them a model that they could follow to do that, articulate some stories and a timeline of my life personally and where I've led people and seen this model work. But most importantly, help people understand that it really comes down to your outlook. How much hope and belief do you have in yourself? And do you really want it or don't you? Because if you do believe, we can help you with establishing a plan and putting that plan together and making it happen. But it all comes down to your outlook. Do you see the cup as half empty or do you see it as half full? Do you see the opportunities that exist or do you only see the challenges? And what I try to do in my book is to uplift people and help them see and believe I am not a victim. I can change my circumstance. It's up to me and how I react to the circumstances, not be a victim to them. And that's what make my destiny happen means to me.
So one would probably say, all right, it's easy for you to say because you're on this side of the road. Yeah. People always look at the external and they make judgments, not knowing the journey. Talk to us a little bit about your personal journey and how did you land in this space?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Key West, Florida. So Key West is a tiny island all the way at the bottom of the Florida Keys. So it's actually closer to mainland Cuba than it is to the mainland of the United States. The biggest city would be Miami. That would be the closest to us. So growing up there in the 70s and 80s certainly was a place that some people knew about because it's a tourist destination, but it's also pretty isolated. So we didn't get a lot of, this is before cell phones, this is before internet, this is before even our airport at the time had no flights, pretty much more than just from Miami. Only propeller planes could come into the island at that time, no jets. There were like 5 or 6 flights a day. And so I grew up in this place, really great from the standpoint that you got a lot of family around and everyone knows you and that kind of thing. But also possibilities are hard to see beyond the island. And so a lot of us, we're in this mindset of, what really could there be for us? And a lot of us saw what our grandparents, did. And my great grandmother, spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time at her house. My mom had to work. Her mom had to work, my grandmother. So when I was, basically from the time I was born, my great grandmother babysat me. And the things that the impact she had on my life really were pretty seminal. I write about them in the book because I heard from her the stories of when she was growing up. She lived to be 107. When she started babysitting me, she was almost 70. So she was born in 1897. So I heard stories about her growing up, during basically Jim Crow. I heard stories about people, guys getting tarred and feathered and things. I heard these stories from her directly. She lived through those things. But what I also got from her was strength. Like I never heard her talk about being a victim, even though she had to quit school, never got to even go to high school. She had to quit in middle school to start working. She had to work basically, as a domestic. She was a wet nurse, which means that she would nurse other people's children from her breast and get paid for it. But pretty much all white people, all rich white people who lived on the island. She never got to go in their front door. She always had to go in the back door. But she also told me that she did not allow herself to be disrespected, even by the people that she worked for. When you saw her walk, she never drove. She would always walk everywhere she went. Nobody messed with her because she was a tough lady, even though she was only about 5'2". She demanded respect. So I got to see that. It's, you can be someone who doesn't have a lot of education. You can be someone who had to work jobs that maybe people consider as low level, but that doesn't mean you don't have dignity. That doesn't mean you don't demand respect. And that doesn't mean you can't save and do things for yourself. She bought her own home in the 1930s. For a black woman to buy your own home in the 19, that's incredible. And so some of the things she would tell me was, hey, I never had the chance to go to school. I had to leave. I had to quit to take care of my family. I never had opportunities because I was a woman and because I was black. She said, you have opportunities. And she said, nobody's better than you, but you're not better than anybody else. She said, are you going to work hard? Because there's one thing I could see from her, and my grandmother was a maid, her daughter, my mother's mother. She was a maid. Her elbows and knees were always dark and callous because she would mop on her hands and knees. And I remember her telling me the reason why she did that is because she had pride in her work and she believed you're going to do something, you do it the right way. even if it's the hard way. So these lessons, taught me doesn't matter, what people think of you in terms of your level, how much money you have. What really matters is what do you believe in yourself? Are you willing to hold yourself accountable to do the hard work? And if you can do the hard work, then you take advantage of the opportunities you have and not be held back by the challenges that are in the world. They didn't let the challenges hold them back and define who they are. They told me and they showed me, yes, those challenges are going to exist. Yeah, they're going to people try to hold you back, but you have the opportunity to do more than we did. What are you going to do with it? And that's really what shaped a lot of my life and my thought process and my career. And so I ended up going on to, I was able to play college football. That allowed me to get into a really good university, which I used that opportunity. And when I was there, I studied really hard. I graduated, worked on my master's degree, and from there worked in the food industry, became an executive, had a successful career. But during that time, I would always remember everybody needs help. Everyone needs a helping hand. And so my whole thing was be successful, but while I'm doing it, uplift as many people as I can. And that ultimately comes down to why I wrote the book, to tell stories to inspire people that you can come from humble beginnings. You can have everything maybe against you that you may think you're going to hold you back. But if you focus on what you truly want, if you're positive and you remember, like you said, are you going to see the challenges and the negatives, or are you going to see the opportunities? And that's what I really wanted to write the book about. And a lot of my life has been about that.
So you go around helping others to shape or reshape
Yeah.
their worldview.
Yes.
What are some of the most practical things that you see where people may have lost work or failed in their business? What are some of the things that you see across the line, and then what are some of the things that you see across the line when people start to turn it over after working with you? What are some of the things that jump out to you as a
Yeah.
practitioner?
Yeah. No, that's a great one. That's a great one. The first one is just belief in themselves and understanding who they are and what their purpose is. I think it's really important for everybody to get to know and love themselves and their purpose. Because if you don't have that centered in what you're doing, you could try a lot of different things, but ultimately, when things don't go quite right, you kind of end up giving up or you can't see it through. And so, like, I know you work on meditation, yoga. That's very important for staying centered, being calm, and generating the inner strength that you need. But I'm also a proponent of people need to spend time just thinking about themselves and asking themselves the tough questions. What am I really good at? What am I not good at? What do I like about me? Man, I wish was a little bit better about me. And getting to a point where you're comfortable with that. I had to do that. And until I did that,
Mm.
I was following a path that maybe that's not the path I should have been on. But I didn't want to challenge myself. But when I had that conversation, a real conversation about who I really am, and faced, hey, here are the things I'm great at, but here are the things I'm not so good at. Am I willing to do something about those? What do I believe in myself? Getting to know yourself is one thing that allows you to stand, to be authentic. But to really be able to stand in the face of strong winds and storms and people throwing things at you, you got to believe in yourself. That allows you to stand in the face of adversity. And so I had to go through those conversations. Talking to yourself is a good thing. Am I on the right track? What do I really want? What do I want to be in 15 years? What do I want to be in 20 years? And what am I willing to sacrifice to get it? Those are the conversations most people do not have. They don't have those. They look more short term. That's the number one mistake that people make. I've had one-on-ones with over 10,000 people all over the world. I led organizations globally. So I'm talking about whether it's United States, Mexico, China, Brazil, France. And I can tell you 90% of them, when I would ask them that question, where do you want to be in 10 years? Only 10% could answer that question. 90% could not. Most people don't think strategically about their own lives. That's mistake number one. You have to think about yourself, your life. Who am I? Do I love myself? And what's my purpose? And so I did that. It had that thought process of what do I want to be long term? What do I want to do? And what's my purpose? And I felt, okay, this is what I want to do long term. Here's what I want to be. But what's my purpose? And I said, I want my purpose to be someone who is successful, but I want to bring people along with me. So you got to understand what you really want to do long term, what you want to give up, and what's your purpose. Then the second thing is then, do you have a plan to get there? Which is very, again, very practical. The plan doesn't have to be, you don't have to start off with 25 things. It could just be, look, I want to be in this place in 10 years. My business failed. I want to do something successful again. First off, let's get in touch with myself. What am I really good at? What am I willing to sacrifice? What do I want? What's my purpose? Now, is there one thing that you can plan on to say that it will help you get to that point? Can you put a plan in place around that, achieving that one thing? Let's say for the next year, I start off the next 6 months to make it simple. Next 6 months, what can I do in every month to make sure that I achieve this goal in 6 months? And start demonstrating to yourself that you can stay the course. Then the third thing that people don't do is realize that there is no such thing as status quo. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. You're either progressing or you're regressing. So you have to
Progressing, yeah.
people always lose sight of that. I'm just going to keep going. No, you have to continue to put forth more effort every day and you have to learn. The world changes around you, circumstances change. So when things change, are you prepared to adapt? The more you have a learning mindset, the more you're prepared to adapt. If you're just stuck, no, everything's going to just stay the same, you're not going to adapt. Are you going to know everything and be ready? You're not going to know every single thing. But if you always, every day, challenge yourself to learn something new, when things change, the mindset of learning and quick adaptation is there. So those are the three things that I see that I try to always tell people to do that are simple things. Get to know yourself and your purpose and what you want. Build a simple plan with one objective to demonstrate to yourself short term you can hold yourself accountable, and start trying to learn something new every day. Build that learning muscle. Is that
Yeah,
helpful?
yes. No, that was, man, that was very helpful because we people don't understand, and this is what I'm getting encapsulated, that thinking is a skill. And we can overthink, meaning the mind works like this. A person is either anxious. If they're anxious, they're worried about tomorrow. So the mind is focused on how I'm gonna do this, how I'm gonna do that, the war, right? And
Hmm?
it's constant racing on tomorrow. If they're afraid, fear is usually about the past.
Yes.
Afraid of making the same mistake that I made in a past relationship or whatever. But the mind doesn't control us. We supposed to control the mind. So by giving it one simple thing to focus in on, and if we was doing some mind work, it could be a breath, it can be a word. But earlier in the year with my seniors, I did the same visualization. My thing is with them is you're not too old to continue to become flexible, to continue
Right.
to move, to continue to imagine. So I challenge everyone in the room to imagine one thing that they want to accomplish for 2026. Not what they call those not a resolution,
Right.
something really tangible.
Yes.
And then imagine all of the steps that it will take you in order to reach that. It could
Yep.
be a physical goal, a financial goal. Because thinking is a skill. At what level, from you being someone who manages and work with people globally from all levels and walks of life, at what level do one come from a place where they're only thinking one at a time, where they can start to stack and start to see that motion? Because it always starts a little bit slow
Yeah.
and then it escalates. When do you see the escalation point where somebody can look back and be like, wow, I really made that journey from here to there?
Yeah, everybody's different. And that's one thing I write about in my book is there's a lot of leadership models that have been developed from studying successful people, narrowing down a few key attributes that they share, and then saying, well, everybody, if you follow this, you can be a great leader. And that's just not practical or realistic. First of all, most of these people have had a lot of unique circumstances that allowed them to be successful, aside from their leadership. Some of them were born into a situation where they had money. Some of them were born into situations where they were able to go to a university or had support structures and systems around them. Some of them just were falling in the right situation at the right time. They don't take those things into consideration when they're boiling down these attributes. Everyone's unique. So what I talk about in my book is my model is all about you identifying what you believe success is for you, not what success is for somebody else. What's success for you? And then you develop a plan based on some general leadership values and here's an operating model for you to follow. But you develop, here's what I was successful to me. And then what's also important is you determining what makes you feel good, because it's not just about success and not feeling good. We sometimes look at people who we think are successful and we think that they're happy. We don't know if they're happy. Most of these people are not. They get something empty. That's why they're always out there trying to, do crazy different things, right? Instead of just enjoying their life. And so what does holistic balance mean for you while you're striving to be successful? What does balance mean in your life? What does personal well-being mean for you? What do you define as happiness? Everybody has a different view on what they're willing to sacrifice to get certain things to also be happy and have balance in their life. So for each person, it's going to be a different answer. But I'd say the key thing to answer your question is, if you can start off by identifying what you truly want, build a plan, and then prove to yourself that you can sustain for 6 months with one thing, then stack another thing. That's how I would answer it. But I would also say most people then come back and say, I'm running out of time. And this is where I really push on people to think about how bad do you really want success for yourself? Whatever your goal is, how bad do you want it? Because I challenge you that a 24-hour day, in a 7-day week, in a 365-day year, there is a ton of time that people are not using. And they say, tell me, how is that? Because I don't have any time. I say, let me tell you this. And this goes across income streams and across socioeconomic levels. The average American spends about 2.5 hours a day on social media, just
Yes, we
streaming
do.
on their phone. All right. 2.5 hours. That doesn't account the amount of time people who game and are on gambling apps and all these things. If you add all that stuff, it's probably something closer to 5 hours at least. But let's just use 2.5 to be conservative. Now, the average American also only spends about 20 minutes a day doing something to better themselves. Okay, learning, let's say you're a college student. I'm not talking about going to class, a college student, because that's your job. I'm talking about extra things in your discretionary time to better yourself. Learning a new language, learning about how blockchain works, getting physically fit, meditating to get better inner strength for yourself. Okay, 2.5 hours every day over the course of a lifetime is 10 years doing nothing but brainless work, mindless stuff. 20 minutes over the course of a lifetime is 10 months. Now, what if you reverse that? What if you said, I'm only going to limit myself to 30 minutes a day of mindless stuff on social media, and I'm going to put 2.5 hours thinking about what my plan should be? What's my vision? Working on making that plan happen, learning new skills. Do you think you'd be in a better position in 1 year than if you didn't do that? Do you think you have a competitive advantage over someone else who's not doing that? There's no question that you would. So my challenge to most people is, instead of trying to think about, I got to stack this and stack this, no, start off with something simple. Start taking your time and saying, I'm going to put 2 hours every day to productive work, and start off with thinking about my own strategic plan. Where do I want to be? What do I want to do? What's my plan to get there? If you can't start there, start off with, I want to start learning about artificial intelligence. I hear about it all the time. I don't even know what this is. I'm going to start learning every day. And the good thing, doesn't matter how much money you make, because on the internet, everything's available. If you want to learn how artificial intelligence really works, on YouTube, there's videos that IBM puts out that explains it in detail. If you want to learn how blockchain works, it's out there. If you want to learn Spanish, you can do it. Anything you want's available, and there's no cost. The question is, are you going to make that decision to invest in yourself or to keep allowing your time to be frittered away? That's what I would tell people. Instead of worrying about stacking, just start off with, are you willing to invest in yourself or not? Because that's where it starts. If you can invest in yourself, you'll start seeing the value pretty quickly. I guarantee you, after 1 week of 2.5 hours on yourself, developing yourself, you'll see immediately the impact.
You stated that you played college football.
Yeah.
What school did you play and what position?
I played at Purdue University in the Big Ten,
Okay.
and I played defensive end,
Okay. All right. And what years?
86 to 89.
All right. So, what values did you learn that helped you to become who you are today from the sports? Game speeds up from high school
Yeah.
to college, right?
Yeah.
In high school, you the man
Yep.
of the whole town. In college, everybody was the man, and
Yes.
you stayed the course. What are some of the principles that have you been able to apply some of the principles that you learned in that gridiron to what you're doing today?
Yeah, that's a great question. People right away go to what you just said. You realize that in high school, you're the biggest, you're the strongest, you're the fastest, and you're kind of like the big fish in the small pond. You get to college, especially in the Big Ten, and everybody's big and everybody's fast and everybody's strong, and you got to take it up another level. You got to raise your own bar. Certainly, I learned that. There's no question. I had to challenge myself, and right away, boom, are you going to step up or not? But that wasn't the greatest lesson that I learned. I mean, the greatest lesson I learned from playing college football was that I could have been a better leader, that I squandered an opportunity to lead. And that lesson really shaped my career. And what I mean by that is when I was there, we didn't win a lot of games. We had a lot of turmoil on the team, a lot of issues. And it was easy to blame coaching and blame this and blame that. But once I graduated, and I started reflecting back and talking to some of my teammates, I realized that I didn't do everything I could have done. I saw that our coaches were not great leaders, but that shouldn't have given me an excuse to not step up. And I felt like at the time that the coaches should provide direction and that as a player, what I should do is lead by example. In other words, I believed that I may not have been the very best player in our team, but I knew I was the best student athlete. And to me, that's what collegiate sports are about. So I was an academic All Big Ten 3 times. I was an academic All America. So when it came to being a student athlete, I was one of the best, no question about it. But what I didn't understand is that not everyone is going to respond and recognize and need leadership by example. Some people need different types of leadership. And if you believe you are a leader and you believe that it's something that you can make a difference, then you got to be prepared to look at every individual on your team and see what can you do to help them? What do they need? What are they looking for? What's in it for them? And how could I help? I didn't do that. As an example, I knew that we could probably be better at doing the details. And sometimes that means extra work. So I could have recommended to my teammates who weren't doing that well in school, hey guys, how about if let's do a special study hall on a regular basis and I'll help you guys get better. I didn't do that. I could have said, hey, man, the best teams are spending a lot more time on detail. We don't have the most talent, but we could be better at the details. How about instead of on Friday nights, we go out and drink beer? Let's go to the football office and watch film. I didn't do that. I could have said on Saturday mornings when we're not working out during the off season, hey, how about if we go work out together as a team? Bill can run to get. I didn't do any of those things. And the downside, what really bothered me later when I reflected is I started going back for like anniversaries and things like that. And a lot of my teammates would tell me, man, we really respected you, Donzel, because we saw, man, you were a great student, you're a great football player. And man, we all looked up to you. That made me feel bad hearing that because that told me that I actually had the credibility to have done those things. Like if I would have said, let's go do this stuff, let's go work out more, let's go study more, let's go watch film, they would have listened. I squandered that opportunity. And then what really bothered me is I started seeing a lot of my teammates fall off, not do, in their regular life. And I thought, if I would have done those things, if I would have stepped up, and taken more of a leadership role, I could have not only made a difference in our team and we would have been better, but some of these guys' lives might have been better. That's what I learned from that point. Once I realized that's when I started having this mindset. All right, my purpose has got to be, if people see me as someone that can help make a difference in their lives, I'm going to do it. I'm not only going to set up my life plan to be the best I can be, I'm going to be someone who uplifts as many people as possible, and I'm going to go to them. And so when I started leading, and I had responsibility for an entire operation, I would make a point to go talk to every single person.
Mm.
And then, there's always people who don't want to talk and will avoid you. And as a leader, sometimes it's easy to not go talk to them because you don't want problems. I would go out of my way. So I would go in at 4 o'clock in the morning and find the guys who, were hiding in somewhere behind, and go talk to them and find out what's the issue. Why are there problems? And sometimes, yeah, they told me things that were hard to hear. They told me things that, man, I didn't want to deal with that, but they needed somebody to listen. And I was able to help make a difference in their lives. That was the biggest lesson I learned from playing college football is sometimes people need leaders who are willing to give of themselves. I wasn't willing to do it at the time. I learned from that point going forward, I can make a difference in people's lives if I'm willing to give of myself. And that was the biggest lesson I learned. A painful lesson. Like I said, there's a lot of my teammates who are not doing well. And I really feel like I could have made a difference. And I was determined not to ever let that happen again.
There you have it, everybody. I told you we only set you at the feet of the best. Fun fact, my great uncle was a Boilermaker too. He played basketball in
Wow.
79, 80, 81. Yeah.
What's his name?
Sykes is his last name. Askia Sykes.
Isaiah Sykes. Okay, I
Tall.
don't know him, but I probably know a couple guys that
Six,
play with him.
yeah, six, he's about 6'9" or whatever, what have you. I got the short end of the stick. My 12-year-old got my dad in him. I think I got my mother side.
So he probably played with
I'm
Joe
only
Barry Carroll.
I don't. He always talk about it. He's in the D.C. area now. He
Okay.
wound up being a police captain, and
Oh, wow.
but he so we was at his house because my daughter's in Howard,
Oh, sweet.
so I went to go by and visit him. And my son, who's playing basketball at U and in his school's 12 years old, and he said, "Uncle, when you was playing in college, was you on the bench?" He said, "I didn't leave Virginia to go to Purdue."
Just on the bench.
to have to get no pond in my behind. So when I at the end of the game, my feet hurt, not my butt.
That's
So
great.
that's that locker room talk, and it's
Yeah.
good. Sports bring people together,
Yes.
but what do you do after the
That's right.
whistle is put to the side?
That's right.
All of Donzel's information is in the description. We don't ask you for Cash Apps, Venmos, or any of those things. And I don't knock people that do, but what we do ask is that you support our guests. How can you support our guests? By getting in that ecosystem. If the more you surround yourself by the persons that you hear on this podcast, it starts to do something in the ear. It starts to do something in the mind, and something resonates. And before you know it, you have these new habit that you
Right.
can perform in 6 months,
That's
and
it.
you have to figure out what that habit is going to be. Also, we ask that you hit share and subscribe. Your likes, your shares, your subscriptions helps this podcast rank. We are ranked now, and we're doing a whole lot better because you are doing it. But if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, do leave a comment because your comments help us to get these episodes into the ears of people that need to hear it. Let's not be selfish. And finally, we have our victory builders. We've built this all-in-one platform for people just like yourself who are starting in business, who need a CRM, who needs MailChimp, who needs to do all of these things. What we did, it took us 2 years to develop and bring this out to the public, is we put everything all in one platform. Just because everything is all in one platform doesn't mean that we cheated you. You have templates, you have things that you can really build, stores. We don't even take a portion of the swipes of the credit card where most people do. They hit you with 3, 2, and 3.5% charges. We want to make sure that you succeed and that you walk in victory. And the price point is nice. And we don't sell price, we sell quality. When you are part of the Victory Builders, you become a part of the Walk in Victory family. We have online support, not just online support. You can make a phone call and get support to help you get your funnel, to help you get your website up to snuff and design ready for presentation. The Victory Builders link is in the description. Don't walk making excuses. Don't walk with your head down. Don't walk looking back. We walk in victory. Enjoy the rest of your day. And also in the link, Awakening I Am, Learn AI and the Subconscious Mind by yours truly. Peace. Thanks so much.